When a group of Western CEOs thought they could quietly drain $50 billion from one of Africa's youngest nations, they didn't expect a 36-year-old captain to stand in their way. But Ibrahim Traoré didn't just stop them, he turned their own strategy against them. What happened next sent shockwaves through boardrooms from Paris to New York. Burkina Faso's hidden wealth, gold reserves, strategic minerals, and rare earth metals quietly controlled by multinational corporations. How secret contracts signed decades ago locked the country into unfair terms. 90% profits leaving the nation. Ibrahim Traoré's rise to power, his military background, his reputation for being sharp, decisive, and unafraid to confront powerful interests. The moment of discovery, Traoré's economic advisors uncover a clause buried on page 487 of a trade agreement that gives Western firms perpetual rights to key mines. Traoré's decision not to rush into public confrontation. He knew these CEOs had lawyers, lobbyists, and politicians in their pockets. Instead, he launches a covert legal and diplomatic counterattack. Hires a shadow team of African economists and contract lawyers trained abroad. Opens silent talks with alternative partners in Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America. Quietly passes a Resource Sovereignty Act, disguised as environmental legislation, that gives Burkina Faso the right to reevaluate all foreign contracts for compliance. The CEOs laugh, thinking it's a bureaucratic move with no teeth, until Traoré strikes. A 48-hour ultimatum to all foreign mining firms. Renegotiate profit sharing to 50-50 or lose operating licenses. Western companies scramble to pressure him through international courts, but Traoré's team has already filed evidence of environmental violations and underreported exports, turning the legal tables. One company tries to strong-arm him by threatening to pull out. Traoré calls their bluff. Within weeks, new partners from BRICS nations step in, offering better deals and upfront investments. International media paints him as a reckless populist, but inside Africa, his approval ratings surge. Burkina Faso's treasury gains an immediate $4 billion in recovered taxes and penalties, with over $50 billion projected in the next decade. The reclaimed funds go into infrastructure projects, roads, hospitals, renewable energy plants, military modernization to protect against external destabilization attempts, education and technology investments to break the cycle of resource dependency. CEOs retreat, but not before issuing veiled warnings about long-term consequences. Some say Ibrahim Traoré is playing a dangerous game against powers that have shaped the world for centuries. Others believe he's rewriting Africa's place in it. Either way, $50 billion has been taken back, and one young leader has shown that sometimes the smallest nation can make the biggest move. It began with a phone call in the middle of the night. A Western CEO, furious and panicked, "Tell your president to back off, or there will be consequences." But Captain Ibrahim Traoré didn't flinch. Within months, $50 billion worth of stolen wealth was back in African hands, and the world was left asking, how did he pull it off? A brief cinematic flashback to colonial treaties that allowed resource extraction for centuries, showing dusty archives, faded signatures, and oil-stained maps. Post-independence leaders tried to renegotiate, but most failed, falling to coups, economic sabotage, or mysterious accidents. By 2022, 5 foreign corporations control 80% of Burkina Faso's gold and key minerals. They pay royalties of less than 3%, laughable compared to global standards. Traoré's early days in power, young, underestimated, branded a transitional leader by the West. Many thought he'd just be another footnote. A late-night discovery, a junior economic analyst stumbles on a buried clause in a mining agreement. It states that if the host nation changes tax policy, the company can seize state assets in international arbitration. Traoré sees it as the smoking gun, proof of economic enslavement. Instead of going public, he plays the long game, sends his intelligence service to quietly gather proof of undeclared gold shipments, approaches rival CEOs secretly, hinting at a new gold rush if they can offer better terms, uses state media to subtly build public support for economic sovereignty without mentioning names yet. In a national address, Traoré announces the Great Audit, Every foreign resource contract will be reviewed for legality and fairness. CEOs scoff, calling it political theater. Behind the scenes, they begin funding opposition groups and stirring unrest. One Western ambassador delivers a veiled threat. Remember what happened to leaders who stood where you stand now? Traoré answers calmly, yes, I do. That's why I'm not stopping. Not. In the boardrooms of Paris and New York, billion-dollar deals were already signed, or so they thought. But in the heart of Africa, one man, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, was about to flip the script. With a single move, he would snatch back control of $50 billion worth of resources and leave Western CEOs scrambling for answers. This is not just a political story, it's a high-stakes economic chess game, and Traoré just declared checkmate. Introduce Ibrahim Traoré, young, unexpected leader of Burkina Faso. The global context, why Western CEOs were deeply invested in the country. Quick look at the $50 billion industry at stake: gold, resources, infrastructure contracts. How multinational corporations structure development deals to control resources. The key clauses in the agreements that keep money flowing out of Africa. Traoré's unique background: military training, strategic thinking, and refusal to play by the old rules. The closed-door meeting with top Western executives. The shocking moment. Traoré reveals he's read every clause, every sub-paragraph. The clause trap. How he used legal language to reverse ownership rights. CEOs realizing too late they'd underestimated him. Step by step of how Traoré reclaimed contracts. His use of national laws, resource audits, and emergency decrees. How $50 billion worth of projects and resource rights were brought back under state control. Reactions from Paris, London, Washington. Panic, outrage, and disbelief. Western media narratives versus African media narratives. The wave of support from ordinary citizens across Africa. How neighboring nations began considering similar strategies. Retaliation attempts, sanctions, frozen accounts, and diplomatic pressure. What this means for Africa's economic independence. How Traoré's strategy is now studied as a case in political and corporate negotiations. This is the story the world's most powerful boardrooms never wanted you to hear. Behind glass skyscraper windows, Western CEOs believed they had Burkina Faso locked into decades of dependency. But in 2023, a young leader, barely in his 30s, tore up their playbook. With one move, Ibrahim Traoré turned billion-dollar contracts into worthless paper, reclaimed control over $50 billion in resources, and left the West scrambling for damage control. They called him reckless. Africans called him a hero. This is how it happened. Paint a picture of Burkina Faso before Traoré. Economic struggles, foreign-controlled mines, IMF debt. Show how gold and resources were being exported daily, with profits flowing overseas. Introduce the key players: Western mining CEOs, European energy companies, foreign-backed NGOs. Reveal Traoré's background: young military captain, battlefield strategist, passionate about sovereignty. Explain the colonial contract model, investment disguised as partnership. Describe the $50 billion web of deals signed years earlier, locking resource rights for decades. Show Traoré receiving the documents after taking office. 700+ pages of clauses, hidden legal traps. Highlight the gold clause giving companies 90% of profits, and the arbitration clause ensuring disputes would be settled in Europe. Traoré calls in his small team of legal experts and economists. He studies how other African nations lost billions through similar deals. The Eureka moment: finding obscure Burkina Faso mining law that overrides foreign contracts under national interest protection. Build suspense: late-night meetings, whispered conversations, sudden cancellations of CEO appointments. Describe the surprise decree issued at dawn, nationalizing certain resource sectors. How Traoré used audit teams to physically visit mines and halt exports. The confrontation scene: CEOs fly into Ouagadougou expecting negotiations, but are presented with non-negotiable terms, include dramatized dialogue. CEO: Captain, this will destroy investor confidence. Traoré: we're not here to please investors. We're here to serve Burkina Faso. The West counterstrike, threats of sanctions, media smear campaigns, and diplomatic pressure. International headlines calling Traoré Africa's most dangerous man versus African social media, hailing him as the people's captain. Other African leaders quietly requesting copies of Burkina Faso's legal strategy. Youth movements across Africa inspired by the defiance. The unspoken truth, $50 billion reclaimed doesn't just mean money, it means leverage. The lesson? In the age of contracts and boardrooms, wars aren't only fought with guns, they're fought with knowledge, law, and bold leadership. Final cinematic line, the West thought Ibrahim Traoré was playing checkers. He was playing chess, and the game isn't over.